Here's what's going on in Georgia right now. The first day of early voting and the absentee balloting showed Democrats way outperforming Republicans at a significant gap, by the way. The good news, though, is that by the close of early voting yesterday, when you look at all the totals, where they're coming from, and who's actually voting, there's been an uptick in Republicans earlier than there was in the general election. It also appears that, I've told you there's a massive number of people who have requested absentee ballots. 300,000 early and absentee balloters who didn't participate in the general election. And those people, I have been told, were found. Largely, surveyors reached out to them. You can get the list and then kind of plug them in with the pollster and try to get a sense of who they are. And they favor divided government. That's good for the GOP. Republicans are running behind Democrats in early voting and absentee ballot requests right now, but not to the extent that they were in the last go-round, which is good for the GOP. Republicans wound up winning early voting in the last go-round, and the odds are they will here now. They're starting to surge. That's good. Joe Biden and the Democrats know it. They're having to redirect even more money into Georgia to try to boost the vote. Democrats in Georgia have a problem. Black voters in Georgia do not like Jon Ossoff, and it is affecting turnout. Jon Ossoff is not a good candidate for the Democrats. Now, here's the thing, and this is kind of what frustrates me in the media. So I've been on CNN now twice in the last couple of weeks talking about this, and I've been on Fox News as well. And everyone is focused on the turnout of the black vote in Georgia. And I keep telling them, and it seems like it falls on deaf ears, the black vote in Georgia right now is irrelevant. And I don't mean that as a pejorative. I don't mean it mean. Here's the problem. Black voters, when they turn out, they're going to vote Democrat, but they're not voting Ossoff. The real issue is the North Metro Atlanta white voters who identify as Republican, but they hate Donald Trump. Will they come back? If they do, then David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler win. If they don't, then David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler will not win. It matters more north of I-20 than south of I-20 who turns out. We know that black voters, when they turned out in the general election now south of I-20, that is the bulk of the state, they skipped Jon Ossoff's race. That's why Jon Ossoff had 100,000 votes less than Joe Biden. Warnock himself could not consolidate them in the primary. The question, though, is what do those North Atlanta, North Georgia, white, independent, moderate, and Republican voters do? It looks like they're turning out for the Republicans. If they do, then Perdue and Loeffler will win. But it's very much like if you go back to, 2018, when you had media obsession about Beto O'Rourke in Texas and he still lost to Cruz. He got close. And that had a lot more to do with Ted Cruz than it had to do with the Republicans. The same thing is happening here. Donald Trump lost Georgia by just over 11,000 votes, and it had everything to do with him and not the GOP. The media has bought into the fantasy that Georgia is suddenly a purple state, and it's not really a purple state. It's not a Trump state. Donald Trump in 2016 lost Fulton County and all the counties that touch Fulton County, particularly the urban and suburban areas, lost them to Marco Rubio in the Republican primary. The Georgia Republican Party allied with Donald Trump and lined up behind Donald Trump as the Republican, and they gave him the state in 2016, but only because they didn't like Hillary Clinton. In 2020, they rejected him. The very voters who decided they didn't like him in 2016 but would go for Hillary. In 2018, they went for Stacey Abrams and almost cost Brian Kemp the governor's mansion. And in 2020, they went for Joe Biden, or they didn't vote at all. But then they voted down ballot Republican. And those voters are also voters who tend to turn out in runoffs. The voters who tend not to turn out in runoffs are black voters, and there are signs that black voters are not turning out. And they're not turning out, one, because they do actually think Raphael Warnock, though black, is too far left, and two, they don't like Jon Ossoff. You've got a concerted push around the state of Georgia from Stacey Abrams and a lady named Latasha Brown, who I know and just think the world of. She runs a group called Black Voters Matter. She's from Alabama. She was a union organizer. She's very good at what she does. She's as much to the left as I am to the right, but she's as nice as she can be, personally. And we did a panel together on conservatives and progressives and the way we see things. And I know from talking to her, She's deeply concerned about her community. She just believes that the progressive values would do the world better, and I vehemently disagree with her on it. But she's out there organizing black women to turn out. And black women are turning out, but black men are not. Black men don't like Warnock. And neither black women nor black men like Ossoff. And that's a problem. And you see it already in the data of where the votes are coming in from. It is white progressives who are going to help Ossoff and Warnock, not blacks. And that's just the reality. And it is the reality the Democrats are trying to pay no attention to. And they're feeding the media narratives about how black voters are going to matter more than ever before in Georgia. And really, it's white voters north of Atlanta who are going to shape this race. And right now, those voters didn't vote for John Ossoff, and they didn't vote for Warnock in the general election. They voted for David Perdue, or they didn't vote at all. Like black voters in South Georgia, John Ossoff doesn't register. Listen, let me put it to you this way. For those of you who don't understand the dynamics here, this is really important. John Ossoff ran in 2017 in a massive field of people for a special election. He was able to trounce the Democratic candidates, and he became the Democratic darling in the 6th Congressional District, and Karen Handel beat him. He had money left in the bank, and for the last several years, he's been trying to build up his name ID, trying to build up his coalition of progressive voters, and the problem here is that he went too far left. You've got the video of him out there saying that Trump voters, we need to beat them, drive them from society so they never can show their face again. You've got him going to defund the police rallies where he's smart enough not to take the position, but dumb enough to be there at the rally. And on top of that, you've got the drip, 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 drip of steady opposition of Raphael Warnock out there and all the crazy, insane things Raphael Warnock has said over the years. From defending the Nation of Islam to defending Jeremiah Wright to attacking police officers, you name it. And all of this is going to come back and hurt them. And Joe Biden knows it, but he also knows he needs them. Joe Biden knows he needs to nationalize this race. I was on Aaron Burnett's show last night with Van Johnson, the mayor of Savannah. And Van Johnson pushed back on the nationalization of the race. Aaron Burnett asked him about it, and he said, no, we got to focus on local issues. We got to focus on people who are there for Georgia, not people who are there for the nation. He gets it. But Joe Biden also gets that if he can't get Democrats to understand his national agenda is dead if these guys don't get to the Senate, that they've got to nationalize the race. The national Democrats have to nationalize the race, while the local Democrats know that's bad. And there's that great disconnect. And if these guys lose, it hurts Joe Biden's agenda.